Hi and welcome everybody. This is Chris Wofford from eCornell, and on behalf of eCornell and Cornell University's School of Hotel Administration, I welcome you to today's webinar. I want to tell you a little bit about our guests before we get started, kind of remind you who's going to be presenting for you today. Mariana Machoso-Safer is Senior Vice President of Marketing at HeBS Digital. Mariana oversees the advertising, marketing, and public relations at HeBS. She heads the Las Vegas office and develops and implements digital marketing strategies for HeBS Digital's West Coast partners. And she frequently conducts industry research and publishes that research to major travel and hospitality publications. And you might have also seen her as a guest speaker and presenter at hospitality events. Shalini Jariwala is Strategic Partner Manager of Channel Sales at Google. And Shalini has been working in high tech for the last 10 years. She's held various marketing, sales enablement, business development roles at companies like Google, Oyala, Salesforce.com, and Evernote. So currently she's a strategic partner manager on the channel sales team based out of the Google New York City office. So here's how the flow is going to go for today's presentation. First, I'm going to hand over the reins to Shalini, and we're going to have some poll questions that are kind of sprinkled throughout some of the presentations just to get a sense of who's out there and what some of you guys need to know. So keep in mind that these poll questions will pop up, and I'm hoping you'll vote as they come up. Also, throughout the presentation, you can submit your questions to either presenter. In fact, I would prefer if you could mention who the question is directed at, and when we get to the Q&A, we'll be able to field those questions correctly. So we're going to review online travel planning journey phases. We're going to dive into the initiatives that drive a purchase and check out the last stages in booking and initial research related to that. We're going to get some consumer perspective scenarios, and we're going to do some multi-channel campaign case studies. So we have an absolutely full agenda today. Again, please get your questions to us throughout. And so without too much further ado, I'm going to pass the reins over to Shalini.
Hi everyone, my name is Shalini Jariwala, and as Chris mentioned, I'm super excited to be here today and talk to you about the traveler's road to decision, specific to hotels and lodging. So today we're going to be talking about the role that the internet, mobile devices, and online video play in traveler behaviors and decisions. The majority of our findings are from an annual travel study, which is a collaborative effort between a third-party research vendor and ourselves, Google. The ultimate goal of this study was to understand how travelers research and gather as they make travel decisions. So the respondents that participated in this online survey and were asked a variety of questions around their air, hotel, car rental, cruise, and destination travel decision making. So the sample size consisted of about 3,500 leisure and 1,500 business U.S. travelers. So what were the key takeaways? Here are the 5 key takeaways that was identified. So number 1, travelers across all segments are shopping around more for accommodations now than in previous years. About 4 in 10 business travelers are open to peer-to-peer alternatives when traveling, such as Airbnb, HomeAway, or Zipcar. The web continues to be a primary source for not only researching, but also for decision-making and ultimately for booking. Travelers move between multiple devices. They're not just reliant on the desktop anymore, but they are making decisions and researching using multiple channels such as a mobile device, their laptop, as well as tablets. And lastly, once checked in, half of the leisure and the majority of the affluent travelers actually rely on online resources to research ancillary services. So let's take a quick look at the current mindset of today's travelers. Travelers across the board are shopping online more for accommodations than in past years. Across the board, travelers, regardless of segment, continue to shop around when it comes to travel in order to find the best value for their money. This is true for leisure travelers, as we'll see 67% of whom shopped around, and business travelers, 59%, and additionally, affluent travel, which is about 81%. The takeaway for marketers here is that it's important to think about how your brand can stay top of mind with travelers, from the initial awareness phase down to the consideration and booking. One thing that Google talks about a lot is 0 moments of truth, so ZMOT. And it's just really important to be relevant at the appropriate time, in real time, with the message that's really going to drive that overall booking. And in order to do so, you really have to be present across all different channels, and that's really where our presentation is going to go. So travelers generally stay in mid-scale and economy hotels. The demand for lodging is growing at about 2.4%, which can be attributed to more travelers and rising rooming. The hospitality industry is at a huge growth stage, and there's above average occupancy levels and demand growth that's continuing to outpace hotel openings. And the main types of hotels that are driving this growth are mid-scale and economy hotels. So this is really an opportunity for these marketing managers to really bring and identify their differentiation and surface it at the time that a consumer is really looking to make that booking. Because if these are the two primary markets that we know are really driving the overall hotel overall sales, these are really the focus. These are really the areas that the marketing manager should be focusing on to make sure that their hotel is the one that's selected as opposed to somebody else's. But we're also noticing new trends. Business travelers are considering less traditional methods of lodging and transportation. So 43% of business travelers are now looking at Airbnb or Zipcar to make their decisions. One thing to note here is that all hotels are chasing the same limited demand. So competition is becoming really fierce. And in order to adapt and remain at the forefront, marketers must surface their strengths and key differentiators at all points of the decision-making cycle. And the distribution channel for marketing will really be the primary tool to shift the existing share among traditional hotels and the new methods of lodging. So now let's take a look at how consumers use the web for travel purposes. So according to eMarketer estimates that 120 million people, or 63% of internet users, will research travel online or through their mobile devices this year. That's approximately 106 million people, or 52% of internet users, that will book travel via digital channels. Online channels have been growing rapidly for more than a decade, as both the suppliers and the intermediaries constantly improve their online functionality, and consumers are shifting away from traditional travel agencies in favor of shopping and booking online. Now, the number of digital travel researchers and bookers will rise in parallel to internet penetration growth. The travel spend is expected to reach $145 billion in 2014. If we look at the last 3 years, the time spent on travel sites in the U.S. across all screens grew by about 1,700 million minutes. That's about 157% growth. And looking at this slide, it's interesting to note that about 3% of travelers make their decisions based on traditional forms, like newspapers, or 6% make their decisions based on magazines. Now, this is really where the opportunity surfaces, because it's showing that our primary way of having these consumers make decisions is online. I mean, 82% are making their decisions off the internet. And this is really where marketers should take a step back and kind of look at their budget and allocate it according to how consumer behavior is. If we know that our consumers are spending more time on the internet, it might be a better strategy to actually put all of your advertising spend against online activities as opposed to offline activities. Now, in no way are we saying don't spend any type of money in traditional advertising, because we do think that there's some value there, but we're just saying a lot of the marketing budgets now have to be optimized given the consumer's mindset and the consumer's behavior. And you always want to follow your customer, and if we know that our customer is on the internet, we should probably put a lot more spend there. Now, 7 in 10 travelers book their lodging online. The percentage of travelers who book exclusively online is expected to double by 2015. And what's interesting here is that supplier websites are leading the online growth, and they're expanding at a faster rate than the OTAs. So travelers are becoming increasingly comfortable researching trips online, and they're looking for lower prices, and that's been a key factor driving the web-based travel sales. About 49% of leisure and 54% of business travelers book their lodging on the lodge's website. Now, it's important for these hoteliers or these lodging websites to have a very clear, intuitive, and informative site, especially when travelers want relevant information in real time and immediately want answers to their questions. Now, this goes back to the Zoom out concept that I talked about before. If a consumer comes to your website and doesn't find the information that they're looking for, they may become frustrated, they may lose interest, and then they may go to another hotel's website where, although your hotel is a lot more savvy and a lot more sophisticated and has a lot more amenities, because they weren't able to drive that transaction right away, they went to another hotel that may be subpar to what you as a hotelier / marketer had to offer. And given that these consumers are looking at the actual website, at the hotelier's website, it's just really important for the hotelier to surface all of their points of differentiation and really showcase the value that they can provide to this consumer. Now, price, convenience, and past experience are the key factors in lodging decisions. 53% of travelers won't commit to booking until they read reviews, and 73% of travelers use other travelers' photos to help them make travel decisions. We expect to see a continued trend of more content in the forms of photos, videos, social annotations continue and rise as consumers look for their information. I also wanted to talk a little bit about online videos and how they're key throughout the travel funnel. Leisure travelers, as indicated on the numbers on the left, and business travelers, indicated by the numbers on the right, watch online travel video. And consistent with previous years, travelers turn to online video across all stages of the travel funnel. Independently, about 2/3 of leisure and business travelers reference travel videos when thinking about taking a trip, choosing a destination, or even looking for ideas of things to do at a particular destination. Business travelers also rely more on online travel videos than leisure travelers when it comes to accommodation decisions, and they could be doing so to preview location or venue in advance. Online video is just a very engaging format, and we're seeing a huge rise in online video ads, especially in the travel space as a whole and in the hospitality industry. And I mean, myself, my husband and I travel quite a bit, and we always like to really feel the environment of where we're going to be staying. And instead of just looking at the website, my husband has a tendency to always go to the photo gallery or to go to YouTube and do a search for these hotels, and just to see what the rooms are like, to see what the amenities are like, and to see what the location is like, as well as what different food vendors or different stores are around that specific area. So online video is becoming very huge. And I think Mariana will also touch upon that a little bit. But a lot of these, different agencies these days are really expanding their offerings within online video. And it's a great idea to really start thinking about online video and your digital advertising strategy. So now we move on to multi-student behavior. The channels that a traveler takes to purchase are shifting. They're not just focused anymore on making these bookings or even performing the research online, but they're really moving to different channels. There's a variety of possible ways for each travel transaction to happen. In a recent study that we completed, we saw that 49% of the travelers conducted research in sequential steps, moving between at least 2 places. So one of the travelers that we interviewed for this study said it best. She basically said, I plan my travel in micro-increments. In all the free moments I have throughout my busy day, 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, and then I book a trip without taking a huge chunk of time to plan everything. And this is actually the mindset of a lot of travelers. I'm sure, I know I do the same thing. I'm sure you guys do the same thing too. Sometimes it's really hard to just sit there for an hour and plan out your entire trip. But what really happens is that throughout the day, you may do something for 5 minutes, do something for 10 minutes, and you may actually do it across multiple devices. And that's the trend that we're seeing. Now, connectivity is also reshaping the path to purchase by unlocking different channels. And as I said before, it's not just about the computer, but we're really seeing a rise in bookings and research in tablets as well as smartphones. Online bookings overall, they're still growing, and they continue to grow at about 6% year over year. But connections via mobile are opening up new pathways to completing a purchase. And for travelers who use mobile phones prior to booking, about 1 in 4 complete the booking on their phone, while about 3 or 4 of those bookings are usually done in another environment, whether it's on their tablet or back to their desktop. We did another study with Marchex, and it showed that mobile users convert at a higher rate than desktop users. So that's another time for a marketer to really step back and look at their budget and try to decide where to spend it, where to allocate it. Should it be towards desktop advertising, or should there also be a component, maybe a huge component around that mobile advertising, given the rise and the growth of the mobile bookers, especially because we think that they're going to outpace the growth of mobile researches throughout the next few years. And in 2014, nearly 61 million U.S. consumers will research travel on their mobile devices, representing about 47% of all digital travel research. So hotel-related ads on smartphones have a slightly higher recall than desktop, but both prompt action. And it's important that brands continue to focus not only on the mobile experiences, but on mobile advertising as well. Interestingly, consumers' recall of travel-related ads is slightly greater from smartphones than desktop. We're not sure why, but this could probably be due to smartphones being a more immersive experience based on the screen size and attention. What was also interesting is that the likelihood to take action as a result of seeing a hotel-related ad is pretty much the same regardless of whether it was viewed on a desktop, smartphone, or tablet. So again, it's important to prioritize all types of devices and environments and contexts. But taking it a step further, what happens then is to really be able to customize the messaging, because a message that is shown on a smartphone should be completely different than a message that's shown on a desktop or even a tablet. A lot of best practices that we found include, if you're going to be advertising on a mobile phone, it should be something where an action can immediately be taken. So it should be a phone number or a click-to-call extension. And these are all offerings that have had best practices and expertise around. As a result of seeing a travel-related ad on a smartphone during hotel research, about 19% clicked on the ad, 20% called the advertiser by clicking on the number, and 24% looked for more information on a device. So what does this mean for marketers? Just to summarize it, you should really think about how your brand can stay top of mind with travelers from the initial inspiration phase down to consideration and booking. Again, it's very important to be relevant at all points in the booking cycle and in the funnel. It's really important to develop stronger digital strategies to reach consumers early and inspire new travel before the consideration phase. Search is a key resource for travelers, making the essential channel for marketers as well. Again, having a very robust website is the first step in this. As people search for a specific hotel, and if you have a link or your URL going back to a landing page or even to the homepage of your website, it's very important to surface the information that the marketer or that the consumer may be looking for. Number 3 is to connect with travelers across all devices. I know that I've spoken about this a lot, but it's really important to optimize your advertising experience across all devices, not just the desktop, but also the smartphones as well as the tablets. And lastly, develop and promote video content, because it really allows you to bring everything that you have to offer to life. And it's a new format, it's a new channel, it's very engaging. And I think it's really starting to become a key differentiator in the hospitality space. Now, moving on to the customer journey, I wanted to talk about so these days the customer journey is becoming very complex. And just as we talked about before, there's so many different stages in the funnel, and it's really difficult to know when to advertise and what to advertise at what point. So before making an online purchase decision, a customer can engage with your brand. There's so many different channels over multiple days. So Google built this tool, which helps you explore and understand the customer journey to really improve your marketing program. So we talk about marketing channels such as email, display ads, paid search ads, social, direct, etc., and the influence that they have on the customer at different points in the path to purchase. Now, the assisting channels build awareness, consideration, and intent early in the customer journey or purchase funnel, while the last interaction channels act as the last point of contact prior to purchase. So this is the report that we pulled for travel. And a channel's position on this chart is defined by the assist and last interaction ratio. So in general, ratios less than 1 means that the channel acts more as a last interaction, while ratios greater than 1 means that the channel acts more as an assist in the interaction. And the ratios in this report have been normalized to clarify channel roles. So in looking at this graph, you'll see that social, which is on the left, has a ratio of about 5.2, and it's also on the assist side. So that means that social channels, let's say such as Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest, are not necessarily for this specific vertical driving the last interaction, and last interaction again meaning conversion, but they're assisting in that. So maybe somebody saw a photo on Pinterest and then became excited about a specific hotel and then decided to go to the hotel website and make the booking. So that Pinterest picture is seen as an assist. Now, if you look on the right side, you'll see that direct has a ratio of about 0.6, and this just shows that most of those bookings are coming from the hotelier's website. And this is very similar to these different stats that we saw in all the studies that have been published, where the hotelier's website is really the ultimate form of driving those bookings, and that is the last interaction that is eventually leading to that booking. Now, these are the typical channel roles in the journey, and as you'll notice, these are all the different channels that we called out before. And what we've done is we've kind of showcased how an assist and last interaction play into each one of these channels. So what I want to call out here are the top two, both direct as well as paid search. Once again, direct, we know that 65% are really driving the bookings, whereas 35% are part of the assist. So again, optimization on your website is going to be very important. But the other thing I really wanted to call out was paid search. And although 51% is assisting it, 49% are attributing to the last interaction / booking. So all of these ads, that come through Google AdWords or any other PPC formats are really, in the end, equating to these bookings. And as marketers, this is a huge area that should really be invested in and looked into. Now, we're not saying just focus on paid search or just focus on direct. It really needs to be a consolidated effort, and that's why we really focus on all of these channels and we identify all the channels, because it does need to be a seamless experience in order to really differentiate yourself and really showcase the success that your hotel has to offer. So with that, I would like to pass it on to Mariana.
All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Shalini. So here are 3 points I'd like you to keep in mind as I go through the next part of the presentation. The first is that there's an average of 21.6 touch points before somebody makes a booking. And I found it interesting when looking at the answers to the poll that a lot of you are under 5 or between 5 and 10. But maybe after today, you'll kind of see how you might be underestimating that number a little bit. The second point is that the average length in days before a purchase is 24 days. And search and display together increase purchase intent by 43%. So we'll first start focusing on the initiatives that drive the purchase in terms of the final stages that Shalini was talking about. And for that, the initiatives or channels that tend to drive that booking home include organic search or SEO, paid search, meta search, or in other words, dynamic rate marketing, which I'll get into, and direct, where the website where the booking is made. These can also be involved in the earlier stages of the research process, but since they tend to crop up again towards the end and closer to the booking, that's where I'm going to focus on today. So organic search, we all want those coveted first page results in the search engines. And what makes that so difficult is that keeping up with search engine algorithm updates is a job that's never completed. Google, thank you, Shalini, updates its algorithm up to 500 times per year. And we have some of the major updates starting from 2011 here on this slide. But in a nutshell, today's website content must be informative, really relevant to what the user is searching for, unique and editorial. And you got to make sure your website copy doesn't sound like one big advertisement. To avoid penalties like falling in the search engine ranks or being trashed altogether, in addition to not sounding like one big ad, there must be no duplicate content and no spelling or factual errors. So to reach your guests in their final purchase stages, keeping all the algorithm updates in mind and the fact that you need quality and relevant content, you'll want to do things like consistently adding pages about attractions or events nearby. An easy way to do this could be to build a special or package around that event. We have a client, you can see here, built a really nice package centered around the nearby Monterey Bay Aquarium. You also want to have pages on your website about your destination, like top 10 things to do, family attractions, dining. And if you can find the time, maintain a blog and post local events, top 10 lists, announcements, area news, and more. Local search, with 24 to 28% of search volume having local intent across the 3 major search engines, you should make sure to optimize your local search profiles on Google, Yahoo, Bing, as well as on the main data providers and local business directories. The reason is the search engines, they often pull data from these type of data providers, so it's important to keep all profiles standardized. If you don't have optimized local listings, then you're probably not making it on the first page of the search engine results for some of your highest revenue driving keywords. I think we've all seen how much real estate those local search listings are taking up these days. And once you claim the listings, don't stop there. Keep them updated consistently with new content and photography. And then lastly, for SEO, have a quality inbound linking strategy. The Google Penguin update, it hurt a lot of websites. It basically said that previously unharmful links were now of low quality and no longer reputable. And once you've disavowed those bad links, you can do it through Google Webmaster Tools. You'll want to make effort to acquire really high quality and relevant links. So claiming and optimizing the local search listings, as we just talked about in the previous slide, is one way to do this. And you can also try reaching out to local bloggers, colleges, and your local CVB. Those are the really high quality types of links that Penguin loves.
There we go. So how familiar are you, the audience, with paid search, the PPC campaigns? We're about 25% of the votes in. Looking like it's trending in a particular direction. And there we go. I'm going to close the poll. Thanks, everybody. And there we are. There's the results. So a basic to intermediate understanding. 9 never heard of it. So there you have that.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Yep.
On the slide here, you'll see a great example of SEO and paid search. The ads are at the top and on the right-hand side. Really working together. This hotel's results are basically taking over the entire page, with the exception of that pesky Orbis ad right down here. But let's focus on the top portion here, the ad. Paid search in travel and hospitality is one of the highest revenue drivers in terms of bookings and return on investment for the travel and hospitality industry. Paid search, depending on what keywords we're analyzing, can definitely be a less touch point interaction or closer to the booking in the purchase funnel. And HeBS Digital recommends that clients dedicate about 30% of their marketing budget to it. So I'll quickly talk about how to structure campaigns. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience is really running paid search campaigns, but on the right, the triangle shows how you'd want to segment your campaigns if you were a hotel into broader destination keywords, highly relevant keywords, and branded keywords. The broader destination and highly relevant keyword campaigns, those are excuse me, going to reach more people in the planning or the assist phases, while the branded keywords, which is the hotel name, will hit those in the purchase process. So more about that later. To show you what I mean, an example for a property located in San Francisco, a highly relevant location keyword would be the hotel's neighborhood. So for example, you would bid on the keyword Lower Nob Hill Hotel, if that's where the property is located. A broader destination keyword would be the hotel's destination and a qualifying word or two. So for example, San Francisco Boutique Hotel. Then the branded keyword would be the actual property name and any variation on the name. You'd want to devote about 100% impression share, or enough budget to reach 100% impression share. So every single time someone searches for the hotel name, you want your ad to show up. And paid search finishes the job that SEO sometimes just can't handle. It gives hoteliers the ability to rank highly in the search engine results, especially for keywords that might be really relevant, but very competitive and difficult to get on the first page organically. And with paid search, you have greater control over your marketing message and also on your feeder markets. But the confusing part of paid search is that sometimes it's part of the planning process too. And when we forget that part, that's when overall revenues really start to suffer. And sometimes analytics can work against us because we become so focused on that last click sometimes when we look at performance of our campaigns that we end up pausing keywords because we don't see direct revenue from them. I've had several clients that wanted to review every single keyword buying every week and pause those that didn't have direct ROI in the past month. And what happens is you end up pausing most of your keywords over time because you're ignoring that path to the booking. And the campaigns really just suffer as a whole. And another interesting thing that HeBS recently did a case study with our friends at Navis. They provide offline reservation tracking. And we did an analysis of what paid keywords resulted in offline. And we found that over 39% of revenue from our paid search campaigns were made over the phone. So can you imagine how much revenue we would have lost out of if we'd only looked at online and last click revenue? And when you look at paid search that way, you completely start missing out on the consumer in the more initial stages of the travel planning process. So I wanted to talk about meta search, but really quickly introduce dynamic rate marketing, which is pretty game changing in the industry. Dynamic rate marketing, it means marketing real-time rates and availability in marketing messages. This is how meta search marketing works. And now we can feature real-time prices in banner ads, in email newsletters, on the website, and soon to come on Google paid search ads. And by providing pricing in your marketing like this, you're meeting the needs of today's consumer because you're really giving them instant, accurate information in the form of rates, and you're driving them to make that purchase because they're going to want to take advantage of the rate they're seeing at that moment. And this is made possible today with technology that takes rates and availability from supply channels, such as the CRS of the hotel or the property management system, and it feeds it into the demand channels like meta search, banners, email newsletters, and more. And a huge benefit here is that rates in your campaigns, they change automatically when the hotel changes the rates in the CMS or in the PMS or the CRS. And also, with 75% of online travel website consumers indicating price as a primary purchase reason, we got that stat from eMarketer. Dynamic rate marketing fits into the last mile or as one of the last touch points in the booking process. So for meta search marketing, TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is the largest travel website in the world with over 62 million visitors a month and over 100 million reviews. And people go to TripAdvisor as part of that research process and to validate their hotel choice. They might think, okay, I found the hotel I want to book, but what are other people saying about it? So these meta search websites, they provide really high value because they close the loop on that travel research and the booking. They provide all this information on the hotel in terms of photography and amenities and location, and they let you read reviews on top of that. So any hoteliers in the audience, you'll want to make sure you're running meta search marketing and on a cost per click basis. It's a great way to drive traffic and bookings direct away from the OTAs and enjoy those high revenues at low cost. And the Google Hotel Finder is another meta search initiative with hotel rates displaying next to the OTAs in Google Hotel Finder, Google Maps, and the property's Google Plus page. And even more incentives for hotels to participate in the Google Hotel Finder program is that the HeBS program has generated 3 times higher conversions than through a traditional lead from paid search. And until Google Hotel Finder, this was really the missing link that forced people to abandon the search engine results pages and go to an OTA site or a hotel website. But now the travel consumer can check availability right there, compare pricing for hotels, and complete the booking process. And then just to close off with dynamic rate marketing, it also allows hotels to put real-time rates and availability in banner ads. So while we're going to talk about banner ads as more of in the beginning of the research process, it'll be interesting to see if this technology moves banner ads further up the purchase funnel at all. Okay, so Shalini covered a lot in terms of multi-screen behavior. So I'll just go over how hoteliers should provide a customized experience to each device. And in addition to meeting the needs of the user on each device, it's also important to provide a really cohesive experience across desktop, mobile, and tablet so that when someone finds you on their desktop and then goes to their mobile device or tablet, that there's really a consistent design theme and message across the entire brand. So here's a snapshot of how this can be achieved. On the desktop, you'll want to serve the full website content. People have the time to do the research. And even with a shift in search and bookings away from desktop, it's important to remember that the majority of bookings are still being made on the desktop. And desktop users, they want as much info as possible. So a single hotel property should aim for about 25 to 50 pages of content and another 50 pages featuring packages and events. And these users, they also place a high value on visual galleries with photos and videos. And video is so important, as Shalini showed in her stats. And the mobile website should contain slimmed down content with larger calls to action and be enabled for touchscreen. And the tablet website should be highly visual with touchscreen and swiping capabilities. So here's a up close and personal look at a mobile hotel website. Bookings on the smartphone, they usually occur when a traveler's on the road, need to extend their stay or change hotels. And some marketers, they bundle mobile and tablet into one category, but mobile users and tablets require different content. And the always on the go mobile user requires short, straight to the point information like the hotel location, maps and directions, summary of the hotel, product, easy to use mobile booking engine, and a click to call reservation number. And then the tablet user, they have a little bit more time as well. They like really visually enhanced content about the property and the destination because of those retina screens that really showcase photography. And the way a tablet user navigates a website means you should accommodate touchscreen and swiping behavior for the navigation and the booking. So to recap, the last mile of the hotel booking process includes the search engines, meta search, and of course the website where the booking is made. And you can see here how many of the initiatives overlap in terms of being both part of the planning process on the left and then the booking process on the right. And this is what makes it so important to reach your consumers at multiple touch points and not rely too much on any one initiative. So we'll take a quick look at the initiatives that are part of the planning process or assist stages. And those are social media, display, email, and reservation reminder. And we actually have a related poll question, Chris.
There we are. Have you ever booked a hotel or destination after seeing a post on social media? This is kind of a preview for some questions that came in a few minutes ago related to social. All right, we've got most of the votes in, and the answer is mostly no. 69 to 31 on that one.
Okay.
Is that surprising? What do you think of that result?
I'm not surprised. It kind of helps my argument that it's part of the planning process and really kind of getting it into your head what kind of hotel you might be or destination you might be considering, but not necessarily, booking from social media.
Got it.
So how can social media drive engagement? And many marketers, they've started losing faith in social media because they're not seeing the quote direct ROI, unquote. And I think this is another mistake because if you set the stage right now, or if you set the stage right, you can really start building a loyal following that's going to pay off in the future. And I mean, talking about reach, Facebook has over 1.2 billion users. And on Facebook, marketers can really reach people in that inspiration stage. And also research shows that travelers are 80% more likely to book a trip from a friend liking a page on Facebook than they are from responding to a traditional ad. That's a Facebook stat, so that's a pretty high number. So at HeBS Digital, we recommend using social media to drive that engagement, increasing your fan base, branding your presence, providing great customer service, and running contests and incentives to build buzz and also help increase your following. As time goes by, Facebook and Twitter, they're finding ways to make their advertising more sophisticated and targeting. So you never know, social media may become a higher direct revenue driver soon. But before I talk about display, I wanted to share this quote that I got from Google because I think it really nicely shows how initiatives we're talking about today can go hand in hand to drive that booking. So display is one of the first steps in the path to purchase, and search acts as the last push to conversion. And I found that many hotels are hesitant to spend the money on display. They might not see the 10-to-1 ROI that they demand from all of their online marketing. But the thing is, if you don't participate in initiatives just because you don't see the direct high ROI all the time, you can be missing people in their research process and misacquiring those new website visitors, and essentially just getting traffic and booking from your repeat guests. So that doesn't mean that online display can't achieve good ROIs. Because with online media and retargeting, it used to be that buys could only be afforded by hotels with major budgets, but that's not the case anymore. There's budget options with the Google Display Network and networks like Adara that more hotels can afford. And these options are smarter for those companies that do have bigger budgets as well. So while display is something that hits for people in the planning stage, smarter targeting available today is moving it higher up in the funnel towards the booking. So for instance, the ability to serve a banner to someone who has just booked a flight to the city your hotel is located in, that's an example of the smarter targeting available. Or reaching people that have visited your website, you can also reach them in their Facebook newsfeed, which just means you're increasing the relevancy of your ad. And of course, higher relevancy means higher conversion rates. So email marketing, it's still cheap. It still really works. Some consider it more of a direct response tool or closer to the booking. And yes, I do see a lot of bookings from emails, but there's a lot of people that also open these and they save them for a rainy day or when they're ready to book. And sending these regularly can keep the hotel top of mind when that person's ready to book. You don't want to send an email out every 6 months or regularly because people are just going to forget they signed up or opt out. So at HeBS, we recommend sending between 1 to 2 emails to your list in 1 month, no more than that unless you're doing something really targeted or have a big promotion running, because you risk oversaturating your list and people opting out. And then going back to the multi-device data from earlier, you'll want your emails to accommodate the 3 screens and reflect the branding of the website so you're consistent there. And then here's a cool and new way to start closing the gap between visitors in the dream stage and booking stage. You can give them the option of choosing a date for a reminder to book email to be delivered to them. They might be on your website and like what they see, but they're just not ready to book yet. And this email can feature a booking link back to the hotel website, as well as include a special rate or incentive to encourage the user to book via the hotel. So we'll quickly run through a couple of scenarios. The first is a mom planning travel, and I'm going to use myself. I'm a mom of 2 small kids, and I'll keep the focus on the dreaming stage and the planning stage. Social media is big with moms, and there's a lot of data to back that up. Take Facebook. There's 27 million women in the US on Facebook who identify as moms. I'm one of those moms. This is a Facebook page of my friend who is also a mom, and she travels a lot with her family. Her posts, they often have me dreaming. On the left, you'll see she raves about the 4 Seasons in Prague, and on the right, the Park Hyatt in Tokyo. So I'm thinking, maybe future travel destination. But I'm also thinking, I think this 3-year-old has been to more places than I have, but that's another story. Another big part of the dreaming stage for moms is Pinterest. Moms are 61% more likely to visit Pinterest than the average American. I came to Pinterest in this example to search for family vacation spots, and I was just served a dazzling array of places that I could take my kids. But I didn't find anything that spoke to me, so I moved on to the blog of my friend. It's her 3 on the Go blog, where she talks about the places she's been with her husband and her well-traveled 3-year-old, and also she features different families on vacation. So I was able to narrow down my choice and then start using the search engine. So I've narrowed it down to Prague because that picture of my friend's son in that robe at the Four Seasons really inspired me to go somewhere kind of exotic that both mom and dad, as well as children, would be treated right. Also, my mom friend and her family love this trip, so I have it on authority that there will be some things to do for everyone when we get there. And let's just say I'm not letting my budget constraint me just yet. So I do a search in Google for Prague family hotels and take a look at the results on the left. And then I also specifically did a search for Four Seasons Prague on the right, and the ad showed up first, as it should have, where my friend stayed, and I go ahead and I click on rates and availability. So I'm going to stop there with this scenario, and I haven't even done that much research or planning yet, and I've hit over 5 touch points. So 21.6 touch points may have seemed like a big number before, right? But it's really not when you start thinking about the travel planning journey and all of its phases and all the things that you're doing when you're planning a trip. And then we've got the last poll question related to this topic. Chris?
How far in advance do you typically book a hotel? So you select one of these as close as you can. All right, good majority of the votes are coming in. I see how this is shaking out. Here are the results. So it's about a month, interestingly, overwhelmingly.
Okay, yeah, that's just about what the Google data said, 24 days. Okay, I'll quickly run through a scenario of planning a group getaway or a reunion. I'll pretend I'm planning a family reunion and I'll focus on the dreaming, planning, and booking phase. So back to social media for the dreaming stage. A lot of people set up private groups in Facebook when they're planning a big event. They use groups or pages to start gathering opinions on what everyone wants to do. And with so many family members on Facebook, this is a really easy way to get everyone together. So I took to Facebook, created a group, and posted a message asking people to start contributing ideas. So someone posted on Facebook that they'd like to go to the Hudson Valley because they heard there were beautiful places there. So I thought, okay, let's see what options are available. And I Googled family reunion Hudson Valley and found 2 results on the first page for the Mohonk Mountain House. And these results took me directly to the reunion section of this website where I read about what this property could offer me, and I decided to go ahead and fill out a request for information. And for my next steps, I'll start reading reviews on TripAdvisor and posting on Facebook to see what people think about this property as the choice. So let's put it all together. And as Aristotle once said, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And this really rings true in building effective digital marketing campaigns and reaching people at various stages in their travel planning journey. Multi-channel campaigns are the most effective way to address a concrete business need of a hotel, increase your reach, really boost bookings and revenue. And to begin a successful multi-channel marketing campaign, you have to start by answering the 3 W's: who, what, and when. So who is your target customer? Who is a customer segment you're trying to reach? Answering the what to the core of the business need. What campaign message is going to resound with your target segment? And then what channels will effectively reach that segment? And then answering the when helps you determine when's the best time to reach that customer segment and answer that business need to drive the greatest ROI. So at HeBS Digital, when we take the hotel's goals, for instance, do they need a boost in bookings over the upcoming weekend or more groups? We brainstorm multi-channel campaigns that will use the right marketing channels here in the graph at the right time, and we make sure to promote one cohesive message across all of these channels. So each circle you see on the slide is an example of a marketing channel, and we can easily use all of these channels in one campaign to promote the same message. And the important thing is to not review results in isolation of each other, because then you're going to miss the big picture and the campaign will suffer as a whole. So here's a case study showing the results of a Black Friday travel sale campaign that we did last year. The campaign included paid search, email newsletters, Google Display Network, banner ads, TripAdvisor display, banner ads, Facebook marketing, a Facebook custom tab, organic search in terms of a landing page, and some more things. And everything led back to this website that had parallax scrolling, which took users through the day of the life of a stay in one of these family-friendly resorts. And the campaign ROI as a whole was 1,048%. And then another example is a luxury hotel brand that promoted a Cyber Monday one-day sale, offering up to 40% off hotel rooms and complimentary Wi-Fi. And their campaign included custom landing pages on the website, paid search, Google Display Network banner ads, TripAdvisor banner ads, and social media, as well as mobile SMS text messages. And the campaign theme was to lose an hour and save a bundle. And with the help of all the initiatives, we surpassed all of our goals for the campaign with over $1 million in revenue on the day of sale, which is about a 147% increase in year over year. And then I'll quickly wrap up with a bonus stage to bring people back to the booking after they abandon. On average, only 5% of website visitors that go to a hotel website actually can complete that booking. So even in the case that the visitor has decided they want to stay at that hotel, they might not be ready to book at that time. So in addition to that reservation reminder email I spoke about earlier, you can also serve a pop-under when someone closes out of their reservation before making a booking. And the pop-under can offer a special rate or incentive as well. And then another way to recover abandoned bookings is by sending out an email within an hour after abandoning. And this email can link right back to the reservation. I'm sure a lot of you have put things in your cart before while shopping and left and gotten an email, a similar email like this. And in just 4 months, this luxury hotel brand recovered over $738,000 worth of revenue, bookings that might have easily been lost to an OTA or competitor. So I'm going to wrap it up here, and I wanted you to take with you at least 3 key takeaways. And number one, when you're building a marketing strategy, knowing the marketing initiatives that tend to be part of your initial stage versus the booking stage can really help shape your marketing messages as well as your expectations of your results. Number 2, multi-channel marketing. Use multi-channel marketing to promote your campaigns, which will increase the chances that you'll be reaching people throughout the various travel planning journey stages at multiple touch points. And lastly, don't look at your analytics in silos. Don't underestimate the results of your campaigns. Look at the results as a whole to help you determine success and whether or not you've reached your revenue goals. Okay, and Chris, that's my part.
All right, great.
Thank you.
We're running up close against the end of the hour, but I think we've got to get to these questions. There's some really good ones. So we're just going to run over a couple minutes. I hope nobody minds. If you do mind, you can move along. So one thing, I'm going to combine a few questions because a number of them came in regarding the multi-channel campaign. So I'm going to try to sum them up. So I looked in the multi-channel thing and I didn't see like much social or content or user-generated. I didn't see a field for that. So the question is, your Pinterest slide and the Facebook slides are really compelling. Is organic marketing growing, or is paid kind of holding firm as delivering the best ROI?
That's a tough question. I think it also depends on how much time you have, because when we run campaigns and we're running, say, a contest on social media, we see a really big boost in results because there's more people that are aware of the campaign. So if you don't have a lot of time, paid is going to make a big impact fast. Just kind of, we were talking about paid search versus organic search. With paid, you can choose your keywords and show up really high in the search results almost immediately. Where with organic, you have to have a strong strategy at all times. You're going to start falling in the ranks. So I would say time is definitely an issue, but I think organic is a really important part of any multi-channel campaign.
Do you think you have to rely a lot on user-generated content? I'm sorry to interrupt there, Shalini. Does that kind of figure into it, the user-generated content that is TripAdvisor and so on? Is that really kind of where it's at?
I think user-generated content is extremely important in that people will often go to read reviews before they actually book. It's kind of like a fail-safe. I've made this decision. I need to validate it. So the more user-generated content, the more brand ambassadors you can get, the better.
Yeah.
Just to echo Mariana's point, a lot of these review sites, such as TripAdvisor, are now coming up with the rating scores that are completely agnostic from any other type of information except for the ratings. And what happens is, let's say you're visiting a new city and you're looking at two different hotels, and the hotels are completely comparable in terms of amenities that are offered both inside the hotel as well as around the hotel. You're really going to look at one thing that differentiates one hotel from the other, and a lot of times that comes to be the rating score. So there's a site called skip.com, and a lot of times if you compare two hotels, you'll notice that there's kind of a list. There's a whole bunch of check boxes saying, yeah, this specific hotel has internet, so does this one. This one has a pool, this one has a gym, etc. And then at the very bottom, there's this rating score. And that rating score, what it does is it basically scrapes all of the different review sites across the web and surfaces them. And Skip has its own algorithm where it comes up with a ranking score. And a lot of times those ranking scores differ significantly. And if everything is the same, even the price is the same, your decision is probably going to be made on the hotel that has the higher score or the higher ranking. And that ranking is purely created by customer reviews. So peer recommendations is huge, just as Mariana said, and that is based on, UGC or user-generated content, as well as a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in the social world.
Great, thank you. I've got an interesting question here. It seems like there are a couple of areas of opportunity, but adaptation by the buying public doesn't seem to be totally happening yet. But somebody asked, I'm just curious, what is the state of affairs at Google with Google Earth or Google Glass or some of these technologies? I mean, do you think there's opportunity there, like Google Earth, for example? Is there a way that can become the next TripAdvisor?
I don't think we necessarily want to become the next TripAdvisor. I think we want to be complementary to TripAdvisor and offer another avenue or another way for consumers to really find information and make their own decisions. What Google believes in always following the user and basically developing based on what the user wants. And we've just noticed over time that by following the user and understanding what the consumer really wants, has helped us become successful. So that's why we decided to acquire YouTube. That's why we acquired AdMob. And that's why we're investing in new cool technology like Google Glass or Google Earth. Because a lot of times, if you think about it, you want to be able to, Google Earth, for example, you want to be able to see maybe the street that you're going to be staying on or what's around that specific hotel that you're staying on, and how else could you do that? I mean, one option is go to the city, stay in the hotel and go explore, but another option is go to Google Earth, zoom in, focus in, focus out. You can even navigate, you can use your mouse to kind of see a 360 view of everything that's around that hotel and then make your decision accordingly. So we're really just empowering our consumers and users to get the information that they want in order to make the decisions. And then Google Glass is just a way of capturing it. And we just wanted to have different ways, different avenues of really capturing that experience. And I think that's kind of where we stand. We're not necessarily trying to compete with the other platforms out there, but just provide another way for consumers to really be able to make decisions in a manner that's easiest for them.
Great. I'm going to ask one from Patrick. This is from way back in the beginning of the presentation, but this is a good question. So we're talking about mobile bookings. So when travelers book via mobile or smartphone, are they usually typically booking through like a responsibly designed website, or is it apps that people are mostly using? Do you have any idea on that?
It's actually a combination of both. So we recommend that each hotel have a mobilely optimized website. Some of them don't, but if a consumer wants to book, then they'll probably be able to navigate on that website and actually make the booking. There are also apps. We see a lot like Hotels Away or HomeAway.com where they do have these apps, where the experience is really seamless because your credit card may already be entered within the app. So it's kind of a combination of both. But the reason that we're really excited about mobile is that it's instant booking. And when you're researching something on your phone, you're more likely to actually take action right away as opposed to take action at a later point. There's less opportunity to get distracted because you're on your phone, you're focused, and you probably are taking care of something that is top of mind and needs to be addressed very quickly.
Yeah,
and given that
I'd love to add. Sorry, go on, Shalini.
Sorry, just last point. Given that the mobile handset itself has such a small screen, anything that's shown is going to be remembered because there's not that much clutter. So if there's only 3 ads that are shown kind of right when you launch the screen, you'll probably remember those 3 ads, where when on a desktop you see maybe 5 or 6 ads. And you may kind of lose sight of what the message is or even what the brand is, which is the most important piece. Sorry, Mariana, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, these days there's really no excuse not to have a mobile booking engine. It's the nightmare to try to book on your mobile phone on a desktop booking engine. But also, I think it's important to remember that about 7 out of 10 bookings that originate from a mobile device are made via the phone. So a lot of people are looking for hotels on their phones, and they end up calling because they're just more comfortable with that call. So there's still a little bit of a way to go for the booking process to be totally embraced by the consumer.